Most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because their brain, brilliant as it is, panics when it matters most. You've been there. The conversation that spiraled. The meeting where your voice disappeared. The crisis that left you frozen when you needed to move. And afterward, you asked yourself, why didn't I speak up? Why did I say that? What was I thinking? Here's the truth. It's not a flaw. It's not fear. It's biology. Your brain was built for survival, not strategy. Which means under pressure, it defaults to short-term safety, even if it costs you everything long-term. But what if you could override that wiring? What if you could think like a fighter pilot in a tailspin? Like a hostage negotiator with a life on the line? Like a surgeon with 30 seconds left on the clock? That's what this book is about. Written and published by Mindful Literary. Critical Thinking Under Pressure is your practical, battle-tested guide to thinking with clarity in chaos, spotting hidden traps in your own logic, and leading, without shouting, when the room starts to fall apart. This is not just a book. It's a field manual, one you'll want to revisit whenever life speeds up and thinking slows down. By the end of this audiobook, you'll know how to keep your mind calm when the world isn't. Introduction: Why your brain betrays you in crises, and what to do about it before it costs you everything. You probably think your brain has your back. It helps you solve problems, navigate drama, write to-do lists, and maybe even talk your way out of a speeding ticket. But here's the brutal truth no one wants to say out loud. When it matters most, your brain is built to betray you. Not because you're weak, not because you're dumb, but because you're human. And evolution wired your brain for survival, not strategy. Let me show you what I mean. The moment everything goes wrong. It's January 15th, 2009. U.S. Airways Flight 1549 lifts off from LaGuardia Airport. 3 minutes into the flight, disaster. A flock of geese slams into both engines. Silence. Just wind. The kind of silence that punches you in the gut. The cockpit turns cold. Captain Chesley Sullenberger has exactly 208 seconds to decide. Try to glide to a nearby airport, turn around, or do the unthinkable. Land an Airbus A320 on the Hudson River? The average person? They would freeze. Their brain would flood with cortisol, scream in all caps, and lock the door on logic. But Sully didn't freeze. He flew. And what followed became known as the most successful ditching in aviation history. All 155 souls survived. But what if that was you? Before you say, well, I'm no pilot, pause. You may not be flying a plane, but life will throw you into its own emergencies. The email that blindsides your career. The relationship moment where one wrong word ends everything. The sudden accident, call, or crisis that snaps your world in half. In those moments, when stakes are high and seconds count, most people do something devastating. They rely on instincts designed for cavemen, not complexity. The science of smart people making dumb choices. Stress isn't just uncomfortable. It's a cognitive burglar. When pressure spikes, the prefrontal cortex, your decision-making CEO, gets hijacked by your brain's security system, the amygdala. That almond-shaped threat detector doesn't do nuance. It does fight, flight, or freeze. Flooded with cortisol, your mind shrinks your working memory, amplifies threat perception, tunnels your vision. Think of it like trying to solve calculus while a lion chases you. Doesn't matter how smart you are, panic rewires the rules. A Princeton study proved this isn't theoretical. They found that stress related to poverty caused a 13-point drop in IQ. That's the equivalent of losing an entire night of sleep or operating while intoxicated. So yes, stress makes you dumber. Not metaphorically. Literally. Case studies in catastrophe. Let me show you how this plays out in the real world. The Challenger disaster. The engineers warned NASA. The O-rings on the shuttle could fail in freezing temperatures. They were ignored. Why? Normalcy bias. The flawed logic that says, it's worked before, it'll work again. The result? A fireball. 7 astronauts lost. All because logic collapsed under pressure. The $450 million typo. At Mizuho Securities, a trader meant to sell one share at 610,000 yen. Instead, under stress, he sold 610,000 shares at 1 yen. The system refused to cancel the trade. Within minutes, a $225 million loss. Career over. Confidence shattered. All from a single error when the brain defaulted to panic. Your mission: think clearly when it matters most. If you're reading this, You've probably been in a high-stakes moment where afterward, you thought, why did I say that? Why didn't I speak up? How could I have missed that obvious red flag? It's not because you're incapable. It's because you were unprepared for pressure. Most people are. This book is your edge. We're not here to play armchair philosopher. We're going to walk through tools used by fighter pilots, CIA analysts, hostage negotiators, emergency surgeons, and world-class decision-makers. Not to overwhelm you with theory, but to rebuild your mental circuitry for war zones. Even if those war zones are inside boardrooms, bedrooms, or your own brain. By Chapter 3, you'll start spotting thinking traps in real time. By the end, you'll move through crisis with clarity, while everyone else panics. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The OODA Loop. The fighter pilot's secret to outmaneuvering chaos. Let me take you 30,000 feet into the sky. You're flying an F-15 at supersonic speeds, locked in a dogfight with an enemy pilot who wants to end you. There's no room for second-guessing. No time to ask for advice. Every breath, every twitch of the wrist, every flicker in your peripheral vision could be the difference between returning home or being a name on a folded flag. This is where the OODA loop was born. And no, this isn't just for pilots. It might be the single most powerful mental framework you'll ever learn for making smarter decisions under pressure. OODA, the calm inside the storm. The OODA loop was developed by U.S. Air Force Colonel John Boyd, a man whose ideas changed warfare forever. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. Simple on paper, ruthless in practice. Boyd's insight was radical. The person who can loop through these steps the fastest and most accurately in chaos, not the strongest or smartest, wins. Think of it as mental jujitsu. Your job is to process reality faster than your opponent can react to it. And here's the twist. The opponent isn't always another person. Sometimes the opponent is your own panic, your own overthinking, your own bias dragging you into the past while the future unfolds in real time. Number 1. Observe what's actually happening right now. Not what you think is happening. Not what you're afraid might happen. Not what you hope will happen. Observation means raw intake. It's the pilot scanning for radar blips, engine vibration, smoke trails, without narrative. It's the entrepreneur looking at hard numbers instead of gut feelings. It's the couple in conflict, hearing the words being said, not the stories they've attached to them. In crisis, the first casualty is clarity. And that's dangerous. Because if you get this step wrong, if you miss what's real, you're not making a decision. You're making a guess. Number 2. Orient. What does this mean? This is where your brain wants to cheat. Your orientation is based on your models of the world, your experiences, culture, training, even your trauma. It's your mental map trying to make sense of what you just observed. But here's the problem. If your map is outdated, distorted, or ego-driven, you'll interpret reality wrong and make smart-sounding, terrible decisions. Pilots train relentlessly here. They update their orientation in flight, adjusting for terrain, threats, and unexpected data. The best decision-makers aren't the ones with the most experience. They're the ones who update their worldview the fastest. Number 3. Decide. What's my best move now? This isn't about being right. It's about being timely. Boyd taught. A good decision now is better than a perfect one later. Why? Because time is the real enemy. Delay costs more than mistakes. Most people freeze because they're trying to make a perfect decision in an imperfect world. But OODA says, make the best choice based on what you know now. Then stay flexible. You'll loop again. You'll adjust. Crisis demands momentum, not paralysis disguised as perfection. Number 4. Act. Pull the trigger, then loop again. This is where clarity meets courage. You pull the lever. You send the email. You have the hard conversation. You cancel the launch. You walk out. You say yes. And then, you loop again. Because every action changes the battlefield. OODA isn't a straight line. It's a cycle. Observe, orient, decide, act, observe. This is how fighter pilots win dogfights. And how elite thinkers stay 5 steps ahead of disaster. Why this matters for you. You don't have to be in a cockpit to use this. You're already looping, all day long. The question is, are you doing it consciously? When your boss puts you on the spot in a meeting. When your partner texts something that makes your stomach drop. When the news blindsides you, or a project starts crumbling. Do you panic? Or do you OODA? Exercise, the 3-minute debrief. Think of a recent decision you regret. big or small, personal or professional. Now walk through it like a crash investigator. What did I actually observe? What facts did I have, and what did I ignore or invent? How was I oriented? Was I biased? Afraid? Acting from habit or ego? What did I decide and why? Was I trying to be perfect? Was I reacting or responding? What did I do and what happened? Did I follow through or freeze? Did I adapt? Ask yourself, where did the loop break? What would I do differently next time, looping faster, clearer, stronger? This isn't about shame. It's about upgrading your internal operating system. In chaos, clarity is a superpower. The next time your heart races and everything feels like it's collapsing, remember this. Panic is a choice. So is precision. And the OODA loop is how you train for that choice before the moment chooses for you. Up next, we're going to step deeper into battle-tested decision frameworks. In Chapter 2, we'll break down how the CIA tests its own thinking for weakness before enemies can. If the OODA loop is how to act fast, red teaming is how to think deeper. Let's move forward. Chapter 2, Red Teaming Your Life. The CIA's battle-tested method to kill groupthink. Let's start with a question no one likes to ask themselves. What if I'm wrong? Not in the humble, self-aware kind of way. I mean really wrong. Wrong about your plan. Wrong about your business model. Wrong about your career, your assumptions, your 5-year path. Wrong in the way that costs people jobs, time, money, maybe even lives. That's the question CIA analysts ask before launching an operation. And the way they answer it is brutal. They hire people to think like the enemy. What the hell is red teaming? Red teaming is psychological warfare, turned inward. It's a structured method used by intelligence agencies, military units, and cybersecurity teams where a group of trained contrarians, the red team, tries to break your plan before the real world does. Their job, to outthink, outmaneuver, and outsmart you on purpose. It's not personal. It's strategic paranoia. Because in the field, you don't get bonus points for optimism. You get bodies. Why you need a red team, even if you're not a spy. You might not be launching covert ops, but your mind is filled with blind spots. You fall in love with your own ideas. You dismiss uncomfortable data. You assume people will act logically. You surround yourself with people who don't challenge you. That's groupthink. And groupthink kills not only missions, but marriages, startups, and dreams. The truth, most plans don't fail because they're bad. They fail because no one dared to attack them early enough. When the CIA turns on itself. After the intelligence failure of 9/11, the CIA doubled down on red teaming. They built internal units designed to challenge every assumption before decisions left the room. These weren't angry contrarians. They were trained devil's advocates. They asked ruthless questions. What if our source is compromised? What if this goes public? What would an enemy do with this exact same data? You don't want to be blindsided in the field, so you simulate the ambush in your mind. How the military uses red teams to save lives. In Iraq, U.S. Army commanders began inviting red teams into mission planning. Their job, think like insurgents. Find the weak spot in the convoy. Predict where the IED would go. Plan the ambush as if they were the enemy. Why? Because you can't see your own weak points when you're married to your plan. It's emotional. It's human. And it's deadly unless you invite in contradiction. Red teaming your life. Let's bring this home. What if you red teamed your own life? Your job, your relationships, your business, your exit strategy. What if you thought like a rival investor looking at your company? What if you attacked your dream the way a cynic would? What would you see? Where are you overconfident? Where are you underprepared? What assumptions are holding everything together with duct tape and hope? Most people don't ask these questions until everything's on fire. Red teaming says, ask before the fire starts. Workshop. Turn your life into an intelligence operation. Pick an area of your life right now where you've got a plan. It could be your career path, a relationship you're investing in, a business idea, or even a goal you're pursuing. Now pretend you're your own worst enemy. Your job, break it. If I wanted this to fail, where would I hit it first? Weak spots. Dependencies? Ego-driven blind spots. What beliefs am I defending instead of testing? I'm too valuable to be fired. This market will always need what I sell. If I were a competitor or the person across the table, what would I do to beat me? Would I wait for me to overextend? Copy my idea with better marketing? What am I assuming will go right that has zero proof? Are you counting on loyalty, talent, timing, luck? Write your answers. Don't sugarcoat them. This is where your armor cracks and insight gets in. The courage to doubt yourself on purpose. Red teaming isn't about pessimism. It's not about being paranoid or negative or cynical. It's about rigorous self-inquiry. It's about building plans that are anti-fragile, not just impressive on paper. It takes real courage to ask, where am I lying to myself? Because the truth would make me uncomfortable. But once you do, you stop being surprised by disaster. You stop being fragile in crisis. You stop building castles on sand. Truth check. What kind of thinker are you becoming? Here's how you know you're leveling up. You stop trying to prove you're right. You start trying to find where you're wrong before the world does it for you. That's the red team mindset. That's how the CIA, elite entrepreneurs, and resilient people stress test reality before reality stress tests them. And now that you have the OODA loop and the red teaming lens, you're not just reacting to chaos. You're preparing for it with clarity and precision. In the next chapter, we'll face a dangerous myth that has paralyzed more good thinkers than fear ever could. The belief that I just need more information. Chapter 3 is called the 80% solution, and it's going to teach you why chasing perfection is the slowest form of self-sabotage. Let's go. Chapter 3. The 80% solution. Why perfect information is a dangerous lie. Let's play out a scenario. You're standing at a fork in the road. To the left, a winding path you think might be right, but you're not 100% sure. To the right, a trail you're familiar with. It's safer, slower, and it doesn't lead where you want to go. You pause. You analyze. You Google. You call a friend. You meditate. You wait for a sign, an expert, a perfect signal. Minutes pass. Then hours. But while you're waiting for perfect clarity, someone else takes the path, stumbles, adapts, and beats you there. That's the trap of perfection. The pursuit of perfect information isn't intelligence. It's procrastination dressed in logic. And if you don't master this, you'll never make bold decisions under pressure. You'll wait your life away. The lie of certainty. Let's be real. In high-stakes situations, you will never have 100% certainty. You will rarely have 90%. Sometimes, you won't even get 60%. And yet, most people wait. They don't take action until everything feels safe, clear, and guaranteed. But high performers, elite thinkers, military strategists, world-class CEOs, they play by a different rule. 80% is the new 100. It's called the 80% solution. And it could be the most practical mindset upgrade you ever make. Jeff Bezos' billion-dollar shortcut. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, made this philosophy part of the company's DNA. In his 2016 shareholder letter, he wrote, "Most decisions should probably be made with somewhere around 70% of the information you wish you had. If you wait for 90%, in most cases, you're probably being slow." Let that sink in. Amazon makes billion-dollar bets on logistics systems, AI, acquisitions, and new markets, with just 70 to 80% of the available data. Why? Because in fast-moving environments, speed is a competitive advantage. If you wait for certainty, someone faster and bolder beats you there. And worse, you lose the ability to adapt in motion. The hidden cost of just a little more info. Here's what most people don't realize. Every moment you spend chasing certainty is a moment you're not building momentum. Perfection sounds noble, but under pressure, it's lethal. It keeps you in jobs you've outgrown. It stalls hard conversations you know you need to have. It kills startups before they even launch. Not because the idea was bad, because the thinker was too scared to act without guarantees. How the 80% solution works. Let's break it down into 3 truths. Good decisions aren't made with perfect data. They're made with clear priorities. Know what matters most and filter noise accordingly. You can course correct faster than you think. Action creates data. Mistakes are feedback loops. The cost of delay often outweighs the cost of being wrong. Inaction is rarely neutral. It compounds quietly, like interest on fear. So how do you know when you're at 80%? You won't, but you'll feel it. It's the point where you've gathered enough insight to make a thoughtful, directional move, without obsessing over every possible outcome. It's the moment where clarity meets courage. Tool, the good enough decision matrix. Here's a fast filter to apply when you're stuck in perfection paralysis. Ask these 5 questions. Is this decision reversible? If yes, move faster. Mistakes are cheap. Is waiting helping or hiding? Be honest. Are you researching or avoiding? Have I identified my top 2 priorities in this decision? Speed, accuracy, impact, risk mitigation. Will more information actually change the decision or just soothe my anxiety? If I don't act now, what's the potential cost of delay? Lost time, missed opportunity, emotional drag, momentum decay. If 3 or more of these point toward action, you're likely at 70 to 80%. Pull the trigger. Loop. Adjust. Move. Perfection is a prison. Waiting for 100% is like waiting for the ocean to be still before you learn how to swim. It never happens. The smartest people aren't the ones with the most data. They're the ones who know when to stop collecting and start acting, because action creates clarity, and clarity compounds over time, from hesitation to momentum. Now imagine this. You no longer freeze when big decisions appear. You no longer need every opinion, every spreadsheet, every just-in-case scenario. You trust your 80%. You act. You adapt. You build confidence, not because you're always right, but because you're always moving. And movement is where mastery begins. Up next, we're going to flip the lens inward. You've now learned how to act faster and think deeper. But what if your own brain is working against you? In Chapter 4, we enter the real battlefield, the 5 deadliest thinking traps, and how they hijack your logic in crisis. Let's go there. Chapter 4, the 5 deadliest thinking traps. How your brain becomes the villain in crisis. Let's get brutally honest. When things go sideways, your biggest enemy isn't out there. It's in your head. Not because you're broken, but because your brain runs on shortcuts, mental habits built to save energy, not protect truth. These shortcuts are called cognitive biases. They're like hidden landmines in your thinking, harmless most of the time until pressure hits. Under stress, these traps don't just activate, they amplify. And smart people can make devastating decisions while feeling completely certain. So let's drag these dragons into the light. Name them, understand them, and most importantly, learn how to disarm them when it matters most. Number 1. Confirmation bias, the echo chamber that dooms you. Let's revisit one of the most infamous disasters in modern history. The Challenger explosion. NASA's engineers knew the O-rings weren't designed to handle freezing temperatures. The data was there. The warnings were voiced. The risk was real. So why did they launch anyway? Because decision-makers ignored the outliers. They filtered the data through what they wanted to believe. We've launched before in cold weather. It'll be fine. We can't delay again. It'll make us look weak. The odds of failure are low, right? That's confirmation bias, your brain's instinct to seek out evidence that supports your current belief and dismiss anything that challenges it. It feels logical. It feels like you're being smart. But in crisis, it's fatal. How to fight it? Force yourself to ask, what evidence would prove me wrong? And then actively go find it. If you never change your mind, you're not thinking, you're just defending. Number 2. Sunk cost fallacy. When loyalty becomes a trap. Ever stayed too long in a relationship? Kept pouring time into a job that's clearly draining you? Held onto a failing project just because you already invested so much? Welcome to the sunk cost fallacy. Your brain hates loss, so it clings to the past, hoping that more effort will somehow justify what's already gone. But here's the truth. The past is paid for. The only thing left to lose is your future. If NASA had doubled down on the Challenger project because of how much they'd already spent, you'd call it insane. But when it's your own life, you call it loyalty, perseverance, grit. It's not grit. It's grief dressed as strategy. How to fight it? Ask yourself, if I were starting from zero today, would I still choose this? If the answer is no, that's your answer. Number 3. Hyperbolic discounting. Trading long-term gain for short-term relief. Here's how this one shows up. You blow off the gym for another night of Netflix. You skip savings in favor of instant retail therapy. You avoid a hard conversation to keep the peace, knowing it'll explode later. That's hyperbolic discounting. Your brain values now more than later, even when later is everything you want. In crisis, this bias shows up as emotional bribery. You choose the easy decision today that creates chaos tomorrow. Why? Because relief feels like victory. But let's be honest. Relief isn't always resolution, and avoidance is the most expensive coping mechanism on Earth. How to fight it? Zoom out. Ask, if I repeat this choice every day for a year, what kind of life will I have? Pain now for peace later is almost always the better trade. Number 4. Affect heuristic, when emotions hijack logic. Imagine making a huge decision, changing careers, ending a marriage, moving cities, based on a feeling. Not data, not trends, just a vibe. That's the affect heuristic, when your emotional state colors your logic. You're not seeing reality, you're seeing through a lens of fear, anger, excitement, or stress. It's why we underestimate danger when we're happy, and overreact when we're anxious. It's why politicians manipulate feelings instead of facts. Why marketers make you feel seen instead of offering real value. Why you sometimes trust the wrong people because they felt right. How to fight it. Separate feeling from thinking. Literally ask, am I making this decision from emotion or analysis? If you're in a high state, excited, angry, anxious, pause. Decide after the nervous system calms down. Number 5. Normalcy bias. This can't be happening syndrome. Here's the scariest one of all. You see smoke. You hear a bang. But instead of reacting, you freeze. This can't be happening. This isn't as bad as it looks. Someone else will handle it. That's normalcy bias, your brain's desperate attempt to maintain its belief that life is still normal, even when the evidence says it's not. Survivors of natural disasters often report this moment. They didn't run. They didn't call for help. They just waited, because the truth was too big to process. How to fight it. Make this your mantra. Just because it's never happened before doesn't mean it can't happen now. And train for chaos. Practice worst-case drills. The more familiar you are with pressure, the less your brain will try to pretend it's not real. Mini quiz. Which bias burned you last? Think of a decision you regret. Now ask yourself, did I ignore inconvenient data to protect a belief? Confirmation bias. Did I keep going just because I'd already started? Sunk cost. Did I chase comfort over consequences? Hyperbolic discounting. Did I let my emotions call the shots? Affect heuristic. Did I freeze or downplay what was actually happening? Normalcy bias. Awareness is the antidote. You can't fix what you won't name. The battle inside your mind. Here's the deeper truth. In a crisis, the biggest war is between your instincts and your intelligence, between your comfort and your clarity. And the more you learn to spot these mental dragons, the more power you reclaim over your choices. In the next chapter, we'll flip the script again, because spotting traps is half the game. The other half, regulating your nervous system so you don't fall into them. Chapter 5 is called The Stress Hack, and we're going inside the psychological playbook of hostage negotiators, elite performers, and crisis responders who stay calm when everything is falling apart. Let's go. Chapter 5, The Stress Hack. How to stay calm when the room is on fire. Let's start with the worst-case scenario. You're standing in front of someone who's holding a gun. They're shouting, unstable, demanding. Every second feels like it could shatter into disaster. Now imagine staying calm enough to talk them down, not just survive, but steer the moment. That's what a hostage negotiator does. And the truth is, the techniques they use aren't just for standoffs. They're for boardrooms, breakups, panic attacks, and every high-stress moment where your nervous system screams fight or flee. But your soul knows it has to stay. This chapter is your tactical toolkit for reclaiming control from the inside out. Your nervous system is not on your side. When stress hits, your body reacts faster than your logic. Your heart races. Your breathing shortens. Your muscles tense. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, starts dimming. That's the fight or flight response. Useful in the jungle. Dangerous in a meeting. Deadly in a negotiation, argument, or crisis. Because when emotion spikes, intelligence drops. If you don't learn to cool the system, you'll say things you regret, make decisions you can't reverse, or freeze when bold action is needed. Let's fix that. What hostage negotiators know that you don't. The FBI trains their crisis teams in something called emotional containment. Their golden rule. The person with the most regulated nervous system controls the room. Not the loudest. Not the strongest. The calmest. When everyone else is losing it, the negotiator slows everything down. Their voice stays steady. Their body stays open. They don't rush. They don't flinch. Because calm isn't a mood, it's a weapon. Physiological hacks that reset your brain in 30 seconds. You don't need therapy. You need tools. Here are the 3 fastest ways to override your stress response, used by Navy SEALs, athletes, and trauma specialists. Number 1. Tactical breathing. 4-4-6 method, also known as combat breathing. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds. Repeat 3 to 5 times. Why it works? This pattern triggers the vagus nerve, signaling safety to your body. Your heart rate drops. Your mind clears. Try it next time your inbox explodes or someone presses your last nerve. Number 2. Power posing. Yes, it's real. Stand tall. Feet hip width. Shoulders back. Chest open. Hands on hips or stretched out. Hold for 2 minutes. Why it works? Posture feeds biochemistry. This stance increases testosterone, confidence hormone, and decreases cortisol, stress hormone. Even if you feel like a fraud inside, your body tells your brain, "We've got this." Number 3. Cold exposure, emergency reset. Splash your face with cold water or hold an ice cube for 30 seconds. Why it works? It jolts your parasympathetic system into action. You'll feel your brain slow down, like rebooting a frozen computer. This isn't woo-woo. It's neuroscience, and it works fast. The script: what to say when you're hijacked by emotion. You're in a heated conversation. You feel it coming, rage, tears, collapse. Here's your emergency script. I care about this too much to speak from adrenaline. Give me a moment to come back to clarity. Say it out loud, or say it internally. Either way, it buys you time. It resets expectations, and it reminds both parties, you're here to respond, not react. Because speaking from stress is like writing a letter while your house is on fire. What mental armor really looks like. Staying calm doesn't mean being passive. It means choosing to act from your center, not your survival brain. You're not trying to stay zen all the time. You're trying to hold your power when chaos wants to steal it. Stress doesn't ruin people. Untrained reactions do. These tools aren't nice-to-haves. They're your armor. Because without them, you'll keep reliving the same panic loops and calling it bad luck. Try this. Build your personal stress protocol. Grab a notebook. Right now, write your go-to response pattern when you're stressed. Be honest. Do you lash out? Go silent? Freeze? People please? Now beside each response, write what you'd rather do instead. Then list one technique from this chapter that you'll practice this week. This isn't homework. It's self-defense. The calmest person wins. In the end, it's not the smartest or the most talented person who thrives under pressure. It's the one who stays composed when others crack. Your real edge isn't how well you think in peace. It's how clearly you choose in chaos. Next up, we take everything you've learned so far, clear thinking, bias defense, nervous system mastery, and apply it where it really counts. In the high-stakes world of business, influence, and power. In Chapter 6, Welcome to Corporate Warfare, where the ability to disagree without losing your job might be the sharpest skill you'll ever learn. Let's move forward. Chapter 6, Corporate Warfare. How to disagree with authority without getting fired. Welcome to the office battlefield. There may be no bullets flying, but make no mistake, power games, ego dynamics, and silent wars over influence happen here every day. If you've ever had a better idea in a meeting, but stayed quiet. If you've ever disagreed with a manager, but smiled and nodded anyway. If you've ever watched a train wreck project unfold in slow motion because no one dared to challenge it, you already know the truth. In corporate life, silence is often rewarded, and honesty can feel like career suicide. But it doesn't have to be that way. Because the people who rise aren't just the most talented. They're the ones who know how to speak truth to power, without making it a threat. This chapter will show you how. Why smart people stay silent. Let's be real. You're not afraid of being wrong. You're afraid of being right, and still getting punished for it. Corporate culture can feel like a tightrope. Disagree too directly? You're labeled difficult. Speak too softly. You're ignored. Get it right after a failure? Why didn't you say anything sooner? So most people play it safe. They blend in. They withhold their insights. But here's the cost. A company that kills candor slowly kills innovation. And a person who swallows their truth daily? They burn out. If you want to survive the politics and still speak up, you need strategy, not just courage. The tactical way to disagree up the chain. The key is simple. Disarm before you disrupt. Here's how elite communicators challenge authority without triggering defensiveness. Step 1. Validate before you question. People protect their ideas like children. Before you critique, find the value. I see why this direction makes sense. It's bold and fast-moving. This signals respect. It tells their ego, I'm not here to fight. Step 2. Frame your input as risk reduction. You're not disagreeing, you're adding dimension. Use phrases like, one thing we might want to pressure test. Can I play devil's advocate for a second? Here's a risk I'd rather flag early than clean up later. You're positioning yourself as an ally, not a rebel. Step 3. Focus on impact, not ego. Never say, you're wrong. Say, here's something that might affect the outcome. People resist being challenged, but they want to avoid failure. The pre-mortem technique, predicting failure before it happens. One of the most powerful ways to de-risk any project isn't just a good idea, it's a survival tactic. It's called the pre-mortem. Unlike a post-mortem, done after failure, a pre-mortem asks, let's assume this initiative failed spectacularly. What went wrong? This flips the script. Instead of sounding like a pessimist, you sound like a realist preparing for contingencies. It does two things. Invites psychological safety. You're not attacking the idea, you're analyzing its weak points together. Triggers predictive insight. Your team gets to explore risk before it becomes reality. This technique is used by top consulting firms, military units, and product teams at Google and Amazon. Why? Because it works. It turns dissent into strategy. Try this. Run a 5-minute pre-mortem at work. At your next planning session, say, just for fun, let's say this campaign failed 6 months from now. What do we think went wrong? Watch the tone shift. Suddenly people open up. They voice concerns they'd been holding back. You surface blind spots while there's still time to pivot. And best of all, you're no longer the challenger. You're the facilitator of foresight. That's power. How to be respected without being feared. There's a fine line between being influential and being seen as a threat. Here's the trick. Challenge ideas. Never challenge identity. You can say someone's plan needs work. Just don't imply they are the problem. Replace. That won't work. With, there might be a hidden risk here we haven't accounted for. Replace. This doesn't make sense. With, can you help me understand the reasoning behind this choice? Make your question sincere, not sarcastic. Make your pushback about protecting the mission, not proving your intelligence. Because in the corporate battlefield, your clarity is only as strong as your delivery. When speaking up is the smartest and riskiest move. Let's be honest. Sometimes the culture is so fragile, so politicized, or so ego-driven that speaking up still comes with consequences. So here's your gut check moment. Is staying quiet helping you grow, or slowly killing your sense of integrity? Only you can answer that. But never forget, you can disagree with grace. You can raise red flags with precision. You can say the hard thing with strategic empathy. And when you do it right, you don't just protect yourself. You protect the people who wish they had your voice. Next, we move from the boardroom to the bedroom, the family dinner table, the text messages that explode into arguments. Because if there's one place where pressure thinking really gets tested, it's personal relationships. In Chapter 7, Relationship Triage, you'll learn how to navigate emotional landmines, diffuse conflict, and stop letting heat destroy connection. Let's go. Chapter 7, Relationship Triage. How to stay connected when conflict starts burning. You can outsmart a crisis. You can outmaneuver a threat. But if you can't hold your center when someone you love presses every button you have, then pressure still owns you. Because the hardest decisions aren't made in war rooms. They're made at kitchen tables, over half-finished texts, or through tense silences that stretch into days. And in those moments, it's not logic you're up against. It's ego, emotion, and two nervous systems trying not to go nuclear. This chapter isn't about relationships. It's about the part of you that forgets everything you've learned the moment you feel misunderstood. Let's fix that. The high cost of heat. Here's a universal truth. Arguments aren't about who's right. They're about who feels safe. When things get heated, whether it's a romantic partner, family member, or close friend, your brain doesn't hear nuance. It hears threat. Tone becomes a weapon. Silence becomes rejection. Logic. It leaves the room. What you're left with is two people fighting for control, clarity, or closeness, often all at once. So how do you stop turning every disagreement into emotional warfare? You triage the moment, just like an ER doctor. The 3-filter test for heated arguments. Before you speak, text, or clap back, run your words through this. Filter 1. Is this true? Ask, am I stating facts, or am I speaking from fear, assumption, or emotion? Half of what we say in the heat of the moment is a story, not a truth. Example: you never listened to me. Right now, I feel unheard and I want to reconnect. The goal isn't to win. It's to get real. Filter 2. Is this necessary? Ask: will this move the conversation forward, or am I trying to hurt, prove, or punish? Sometimes the smartest move isn't to say more. It's to pause. Because the brain in fight mode hears criticism as danger, even if it's technically accurate. Speak only if it builds clarity, not just intensity. Filter 3. Is this kind? Not soft. Not sugar-coated. Kind. Can I say this in a way that invites understanding instead of triggering shame? Kindness doesn't mean avoiding hard truths. It means delivering them without ego grenades attached. If your tone comes from defensiveness, they'll defend too. If your tone comes from care, they might just lean in. Case study: how marriage counselors resolve deadlocks. Marriage therapist Dr. Sue Johnson pioneered a technique called emotionally focused therapy, EFT. Here's what she discovered. Most couples weren't fighting about the surface issue, who's right, who forgot the thing. They were reacting to an unspoken fear underneath it all. Do I matter to you? Can I trust you to care for my emotions? Will you still choose me when things get hard? Once partners learned to identify and name the fear underneath the fight, the whole tone shifted. Arguments became conversations. Criticism turned into confession. Distance gave way to reconnection. Because the truth is, behind most anger is a hidden ask for connection. From confrontation to collaboration. Here's a line that changes everything mid-conflict. I'm not your enemy, I'm your teammate. Can we solve this together? This disarms the war language. It turns the heat into heart. People don't stay defensive when they feel seen. People don't escalate when they feel invited to rebuild. Try this, the triage technique in action. Next time you feel the tension rising, don't go silent or sharp. Say this: I want to talk, but not like this. I care about this too much to fight from adrenaline. Can we take 10 minutes and come back calmer? That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You're interrupting the cycle before it spirals. You're taking leadership over the emotional climate, not just the content. Bonus insight: it's not always about fixing. Sometimes, the best response isn't a solution. It's a presence. When someone's upset, ask, do you want support or solutions? If they say support, don't fix it. Don't defend. Don't analyze. Just hold space. That one question can stop hours of miscommunication. Mastery in love is measured in pressure. Anyone can be kind when they feel safe. But emotional mastery is tested when you feel misunderstood, triggered, or hurt, and you choose to stay grounded anyway. This is how relationships become safe havens instead of war zones. This is how arguments become intimacy instead of injury. Because in high-stakes conversations, your nervous system is the loudest voice in the room, even when you're silent. Next, we enter a different kind of emergency room, the one inside your schedule, your inbox, your daily overwhelm. In Chapter 8, Emergency Mindset, you'll learn how to triage tasks like an ER nurse, cut through chaos in under 60 seconds, and build a life where urgency no longer owns you. Let's keep moving. Chapter 8, Emergency Mindset, how to triage your life like a crisis medic. It's 3 a.m. in a hospital emergency room. Fluorescent lights hum. Phones ring. A car crash victim is wheeled in. Someone's child is seizing in the corner. A man with chest pains clutches his side. Now imagine being the nurse at intake. Everyone wants attention. Everyone thinks their crisis is the worst. But you only have so much time, so much space, and so many hands. Welcome to Triage. It's not about who's loudest. It's not about who's been waiting the longest. It's about what matters most, right now. This chapter will teach you how to apply that same mindset to your day, your decisions, and your energy. Because the truth is, you live in an emergency room too. It just looks like email, tasks, texts, and pressure you've normalized. Why everything feels urgent, even when it's not. Your brain wasn't built for modern overwhelm. It evolved to survive a few urgent threats a week, not 43 Slack messages before noon. So what happens? You confuse the loudest task with the most important one. You answer the email instead of working on the dream. You do the thing that feels productive instead of what actually moves the needle. This is the emergency mindset flipped upside down, reactivity masquerading as responsibility. Let's flip it back. What do our nurses know that you don't? In trauma care, patients are sorted using triage tags. Red, life-threatening. Needs immediate attention. Yellow, serious but stable. Needs care soon. Green, minor. Can wait. Black, beyond help or already gone. Cold, maybe. But this protocol saves lives. Why? Because time is finite, and emotional chaos doesn't change math. Now imagine if you treated your time like that. What if you color-tagged your daily tasks by impact, not urgency? Tool, the 60-second cost/benefit analysis. Here's how to triage your life in under a minute. Next time you feel overwhelmed or unsure what to tackle first, ask these 3 questions. Number 1. What's the cost of not doing this right now? Is there a deadline? Will this create a ripple effect of consequences? Is someone waiting on this to move forward? If the cost is high, tag it red. Number 2. What's the real benefit of doing this now? Will this create momentum? Move a long-term goal forward? Free up future time? If the benefit is high, prioritize it over busy work. Number 3. Am I doing this to avoid something harder but more important? Yes, that includes checking email for the 12th time today. If so, tag it green. Low reward, low risk, emotional pacifier. Run this triage for just 60 seconds. Sort your top 5 tasks. Then focus only on the red and yellow. Ignore the noise. Don't fall for productive avoidance. Urgency is not equal to importance. Mindset shift. You are the first responder of your own life. Think about it. Our nurses don't panic when things get crazy. They anchor harder. They zoom in. They filter the noise and focus on what saves lives. What if you did that with your time? Zoom out. Prioritize from impact, not impulse. Let the non-urgent burn if it means protecting what truly matters. You'll feel selfish at first. But here's the truth. Every yes you give without triage is a no to your own priorities. You can't save everyone. You can't fix everything. But you can lead yourself with clarity and let others match that. Try this, the triage reset. When your brain starts spinning, do this. Pause. Breathe. Tactical breathing, Chapter 5. Name the top 3 priorities today. Tag each one, red, yellow, green. Start with red. Forget the rest. Repeat as needed, especially when stress rises. You'll be shocked how fast clarity returns when you stop treating everything like a code red. Not all fires deserve your water. In the end, mastery under pressure isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters when it matters. The world will always feel like an emergency, but you don't have to be the one sprinting through it with your hair on fire. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. That's how triage wins in war, hospitals, and daily life. Now that we've sharpened your emergency lens, it's time to go deeper. You've learned how to act, reflect, and respond. Next, in Chapter 9, stress testing your brain will train your mind like a battlefield tool, so when chaos shows up, it finds you already calm, ready, and several moves ahead. Let's continue. Chapter 9. Stress testing your brain. How to think like a chess master in a burning world. By the time most people need mental strength, it's already too late. The meeting goes sideways. The client bails. The partner says, "We need to talk." The plan unravels. And what do? We react. We improvise. We grasp. We panic. Because most people don't train for chaos. They wait for it to slap them awake. But if you want to stay grounded when everything shakes, you need more than awareness. You need armor. You need reps. You need a brain that's been battle-tested before the battle starts. Let's talk about how to build that. The chess master's advantage. Magnus Carlsen, one of the greatest chess players alive, was once asked how he stays calm under pressure. His answer? "I've already been in this position before." Not because he's psychic, because he's practiced it hundreds of times. Every day, chess masters run mental simulations. If I move here, what's their counter? If this plan collapses, what's my fallback? What trap am I not seeing? They don't just react. They pre-play. So when pressure hits, they're not overwhelmed, they're ready. This is the mindset you need. And it doesn't require a chessboard, just discipline. The decision drill habit. Start your mornings like a strategist. Pick one challenge you might face today. A meeting, conversation, deadline, or high-stakes task. Imagine 3 worst-case versions of how it could go. Not to scare yourself, but to build response pathways. Mentally rehearse how you'd respond with clarity. No panic. No drama. Just presence and logic. Your brain can't tell the difference between real and imagined experience. This means you can train for stress without living through trauma. Pilots use flight simulators. Surgeons rehearse procedures. You simulate pressure in thought, so it feels familiar when it shows up in life. The Black Swan Journal. Coined by Nassim Taleb, a black swan is an unpredictable event that catches everyone off guard, but in hindsight feels obvious. 9/11, the 2008 crash, a global pandemic. The day your business partner walks out or your best employee quits. You can't predict these moments exactly, but you can train for them. That's where the Black Swan Journal comes in. Here's how to use it. Once a week, ask, what's one thing I assume will always be stable that might suddenly break? Write down a scenario where it fails. Your team flakes. Your income source dries up. The platform you rely on bans your account. Now ask, what would I do mentally, financially, strategically if that happened? This isn't paranoia. It's mental redundancy. You're building flexibility before the fall. You're becoming someone who doesn't fear the unknown because you've rehearsed the shape of uncertainty. From fragile to anti-fragile. Most people are mentally fragile. They break under pressure because they haven't trained for it. Some people are resilient. They bounce back, but only after taking damage. But the most elite thinkers? They're anti-fragile. Pressure doesn't just test them, it sharpens them. Chaos doesn't just hurt them, it reveals new strategies. And the difference is reps. Mental drills. Scenario planning. Simulated pressure. Not so you live in fear, but so you don't freeze when the unexpected arrives. Try this, your weekly brain stress test. Once a week, block 10 minutes and run this process. What unexpected event could disrupt my life, work, or relationships this month? Think supply chain, key people, health, reputation, revenue. What am I doing now to prepare for that? Do you have backups? Alternatives? Agreements in place? If it hit tomorrow, what's my first calm move? Not panic. Not revenge. A clear, thoughtful step. This exercise turns fear into foresight. You'll stop being surprised by chaos and start shaping your responses before crisis shapes you. You are the architect of your own resilience. Here's the truth most people never hear. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your training. And now that you've learned how to think under pressure, defend against bias, manage emotions, and move with clarity, it's time to lock it in. In the final chapter, we'll gather every weapon, every phrase, every principle you've learned, and put it into one master toolkit. Welcome to Chapter 10, the Crisis Thinker's Toolkit. Let's finish strong. Chapter 10, the Crisis Thinker's Toolkit. Your field manual for thinking clearly when others can't. Let's be honest. You've read a lot of ideas. You've studied frameworks, walked through case studies, tested your mental defenses, and rewired how you respond to pressure. But when chaos actually hits, when the room gets hot, the voices get loud, and time disappears, you won't have time to flip back through chapters. You'll need something faster, sharper, ready to use. This chapter is that. This is your Crisis Thinker's Toolkit, built to be grabbed at the moment of impact. Let's break it down. Cheat sheet number 1. 5 questions to uncover hidden assumptions. When the situation is messy, decisions are murky, or everyone seems certain, pause and run these 5 questions. Number 1. What am I assuming to be true that might not be? This one alone can dismantle a fragile plan. Number 2. If I'm wrong, what would I expect to see first? Helps you reverse engineer failure before it happens. Number 3. What am I emotionally invested in that might be clouding my logic? Ego is the enemy. Identify where you're protecting identity, not strategy. Number 4. What important data am I not looking at or avoiding? If it's uncomfortable or inconvenient, it's probably the thing you need most. Number 5. If someone I respected challenged this decision, what would they ask? Step outside yourself. Borrow someone else's objectivity. When in doubt, interrogate your certainty. That's where real intelligence starts. Cheat sheet number 2. 20 phrases to shut down manipulators without starting a war. You don't have to yell. You don't have to apologize. You just need language that holds the line without making it a battle. Here's your phrasebook. Boundary setting. I'm not comfortable with that. Let me get back to you on that. I won't continue this conversation if it stays at this tone. Clarity in conflict. Let's not confuse emotion with fact. What outcome are you hoping for here? Help me understand the logic behind that. Deflecting guilt trips or power plays. That's your perspective, not my responsibility. I see how this benefits you. Can we talk about mutual benefit? You're entitled to feel that way. I'm entitled to disagree. De-escalation without submission. I'd like to revisit this once we've both cooled off. I hear your point, my decision stands. I'm open to feedback, not to pressure. Holding your frame. Let's stay focused on the issue, not the personalities. If the facts change, I'll reassess. Until then, I'm holding position. Respectfully, that sounds like a narrative, not evidence. Truth in complexity. Multiple things can be true at once. Disagreement isn't disrespect. Certainty isn't the same as accuracy. These aren't comebacks. They're mental breaks. They reset the conversation without escalating it. Because real power doesn't shout. It stabilizes. Bonus: how to be the lone voice of reason. There will be moments, meetings, relationships, emergencies, where everyone's losing their mind. And you'll be the only one thinking clearly. Here's how to navigate those moments without being ignored, resented, or steamrolled. Number 1. Signal calm with body language first. Slow breath. Open posture. Gentle eye contact. Before people hear your words, they read your nervous system. Number 2. Ask the room for space. Don't demand it. Can we slow this down for a second? Before we act, I'd like to name something I'm noticing. That opens the floor without sounding like a takeover. Number 3. Speak facts, not fears. Here's what we know. Here's what we're assuming. Here's what hasn't been considered. Don't try to sound heroic. Try to sound useful. Number 4. Anchor to outcome, not ego. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to help us make the best call. That line alone can flip resistance into respect. Your final advantage, the trained mind. You've reached the end of the book, but really, this is the beginning of your next level. The world is loud, pressure is constant, and panic is contagious. But now, you don't guess. You don't freeze. You don't crumble. You observe. You orient. You decide. You act. You red team your life. You stress test your logic. You lead with calm, even when chaos rages. Because the crisis thinker doesn't wait for clarity. They create it. And in doing so, they become the person everyone turns to when the fire starts. Final words. When everything goes wrong and all eyes turn to you, let them see someone who is grounded, someone who doesn't flinch, someone who's already been here, in their mind, in their training, in their preparation. You're no longer reacting. You're ready. You're the one they'll look to in the fire. You made it, not just through a book, but through a transformation. You're no longer someone who freezes in chaos. You're someone who thinks when others panic. You're someone who leads, even without the title. You've built something rare, clarity under pressure. Now, if this book sharpened your mind, helped you breathe easier in chaos, or made you rethink the way you make decisions, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. Tell me what hit hardest. Like or share this with someone you know is carrying heavy decisions. And if you want more books like this, ones that actually equip you, not just inspire you, make sure to subscribe or follow. Because this isn't just about books. It's about building a community of calm thinkers in a world addicted to noise. And if no one's told you lately, you're the kind of person people will look to when everything's falling apart. Stay steady, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.